Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you.
I'm trying to expand my. All right, let's call this meeting to order. I'm Mayor Michael Watson. Today is Thursday, the 16th of April, 2026, and I call this special budget meeting to order. Online with us this evening is the town administrator, the town accountant, as well as the public works director, the deputy public works director, and the assistant chief of police. I will now call the roll of the elected officials. Is the council member from Ward 1 present?
Present.
Council member Ward 2? He is present. Council member from Ward 3?
Present.
Ward 4?
Present.
Ward 6?
Present.
Okay, seeing 6 of the town's 7 elected officials present, we have a quorum to conduct business. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilmember Garces is not able to join us tonight. Is there a motion to excuse him?
Motion to excuse Councilmember Garces.
Second.
It's been made. The motion is made by Councilmember Fry and seconded by the Vice Mayor. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes 5-0. Councilmember Garces is excused. Do we have an agenda for this meeting that we need to approve?
There is an agenda and item 3 says approval of agenda.
All right. Since we're on item 3 on the agenda, is there a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion was made by Vice Mayor Briner and seconded by Councilmember Fry. Is there any discussion of the motion to approve the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes 5-0, and we have an agenda for this meeting. I will now pass the microphone to the town administrator, Delane Galloway, who will introduce the budget items to be discussed, and I think promptly turn the discussion over to the Public Works Department. Go ahead, Mr. Galloway.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I hope you all are doing well today. It breaks
So far,
I hear that. Well, it's the time of the year that we all love, of course, it's budget season. I say that jokingly because we have some tough decisions to make in this budget year. Okay, we've made a lot as town staff, and I'm satisfied with the progress that we've made, but we will need guidance from you all at a certain point. Tonight, we will have the Public Works Department present their department, followed by the general government. That means the general contractual government, the mayor and council budget, the general administration, and committee and debt services. We will then have a brief overview of revenue from Diane Mock, and then we will make a recommendation for what the rate should be set at and recommendations following about the fund balance. So with that being said, are there any questions for me right now? Okay, well, without further ado, I will turn the floor over to Director Brayman and the Public Works Department. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Town Council, Town of Cheverly. We have a PowerPoint, and I believe Giselle is going to upload for us, and then we'll dig into the numbers after the PowerPoint. Be able to get that up and running?
Madam Clerk, we don't see your screen sharing if you're trying to share.
No, I'm sorry. Alex is supposed to be sharing it.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, Ms. Prom, are you able to share screen? Pardon my confusion on that.
Matt, please.
Let me see. Okay. You could full screen that, please? Or put it in the presentation mode?
One moment, please.
Well, let me go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity to present the FY27 budget presentation for the Department of Public Works. As you can see, this is actually the truck that we were able to obtain. That's our most recent truck. So we're not asking for one of those this year. In fact, our capital requests are very low. But we wanted to show that is out on the streets. It's working great, and we thank you for your support on that. Next slide, please. So what we've tried to do is align staffing, training, and preparedness within the budget, and of course within funding parameters. This year is a tight year. Safety and compliance are two areas that we are focused on, and of course responsiveness is always something that we look to strive to achieve as well as improve. Operational investments, we are trying to balance the routine services as long with capital improvements. I would point out the trucks, the trash trucks that you've been supportive of over the years has allowed us to have more reliable starts in the morning. Just so you know, there were many times we were juggling multiple trucks being out at a time. The infrastructure improvements largely are tied to the highway user revenue, which we have some years banked, but we've already started spending those down. And as I've said before, we're spending a lot of those down on the east side. I'll get into a little bit more detail on that. Financial stewardship and grants, we've been very successful, I think, over the past couple of years with obtaining significant amounts of, let's say, outside money or other people's money to assist with various things. And we're going to touch upon that here in a minute. Next slide, please. Last year, or should I say this year, we were able to complete several projects that we're proud of. The Boyd Park Gate is now up and running, and we have a picture of it there. And so that not only improves the safety of the park, but we think that also helps out with the park itself as well as the residents and visitors. The Boyd Park Playground actually opened in FY26 as well. That was due to the Community Parks and Playgrounds grant, which was the first time that I recall us going after that grant, and we were successful at getting that. That's even after we were told we probably would not. And so we're grateful for that, and thank you for your decision on the surfacing on that. And of course, the 62nd Place sidewalk installation. This was a long, outstanding request for access. And we were able to accomplish this with highway user revenue. What I would like to point out, though, is that we did leverage county project management with actually some engineers and some others that significantly helped out. particularly with that retaining wall. But I'm quite proud that we were able to put up what I think is a pretty good looking wall, considering the endeavor. This was a compromise with the county, though. My first request was for them to help us out with the Kilmer ADA access ramp. That's a much larger project. If we could go to the next slide, though. Thank you, Vice Mayor Briner. Upcoming projects and planned investments. So we have road projects that are currently underway right now. I've been talking for some time about combining our asphalt on the east side with the task order 201 asphalt and overlay. We've coordinated extensively with them. Wayne Place has already been patched up with base patching, the milling and resurfacing. I believe it'll be completed next week. 63rd Avenue, we already have curb and gutter work. That's also going to have a lot of apron work done on it, and we're getting some feedback, but that has started, and I just want everyone to know that's a very busy road, lots of parking. We're going to do our best to, we're going to be flyering them as well as trying to interact with individual houses, trying to make sure that we have the least amount of impact as possible. But there will be impacts, but it'll be hopefully quick and over with, and they're going to have, that's going to be a completely rebuilt road. Laurel Avenue and Inwood Streets. There's areas that WSSC are doing. There's areas that we are doing. So we're looking to make sure that we have as much of those areas paved over as well with new asphalt and overlay. Additionally, too, we have a bridge. I would always recommend municipalities never own a bridge, but we do own a bridge, and that's over the 64th Avenue. We get a biannual or every 2 years a bridge inspection. This year we do need to move on some bridge maintenance. Our bridge is in pretty good shape, but we're going to be using highway user revenue for that as well. And then the one capital improvement project tied to program open space that we'll be proposing is to complete the walking track. And while we haven't, well, I guess you could, there's a little bit of is open at this point. But as part of the Ely building, a significant portion, just under half of the track was put in with a rubberized surface, making it a much better track than what was there before. We're going to be proposing trying to connect that all the way around the town park field. We can get into that in a little bit more detail. If we can get this video going. These are still things. So this is what it looked like September 20th, 2020 on Parkway and Forest. An amazing video there where you find that cars are actually floating. While we have done, and we can move on after that plays to the next slide, but we use that as a primary concern of moving forward with this FEMA project. We're still working to get through the hoops with this FEMA project, but that did bring us $1.668 million, and we were able to get a match through CIS and the Clean Water Partnership. So that's about $2.2 million in outside money that's coming in. It's not for construction, it's for design, but it is going to study our stormwater management systems throughout town, particularly the storm drains. And so why I showed that video is because I think we did get some improvements to that intersection. That has not happened again, but we were able to leverage that event. And it was a tragic event. There's other areas too that were, hit pretty hard, like Newton and some of that. But we've used that to try to leverage this, and I think this is going to give us a lot of information for us to move forward with either some of our own projects, with larger projects, or potentially pointing the county to where they need to improve their own storm drain system. The Lower Beaver Dam Creek Watershed is a grant that we received for $500,000. We need to get this jump started. This is the study of the erosion and the flooding alongside Forest Road, past Town Hall, and up against Route 50. And so we're onboarding the Low Impact Development Center, Emily and Charlie, to help us jumpstart this in conjunction with EchoSite. EchoSite is they've already done some work on this, but EchoSite worked with us on the Crestlawn project. So this is something that we hope to be bringing more information to you in the not too distant future, but this is we're jump starting on this project. Two other projects that I'd like to let Ms. Prom describe are, I think, popular projects as well.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you, Director Brayman. So starting off with the Cheverly to Anacostia River Trail Bike Path, we were awarded $400,000 from the Maryland Department of Transportation through the Kim Lamphere Bikeways Grant. We also received a 20% match from the PG Parks County Division of MNC PPC. The scope of the work will include barrier striping and signage for a minor retrofit, beginning at Hospital Hill, going down Lydell, which you can kind of see in this map here. So that's the developing Hospital Hill area. This is Hospital Hill Road going down Lydell, and then it'll connect onto Kenilworth Avenue here, crossing over to 52nd Avenue, and then all the way down to the end of 52nd onto the dirt road. From there, it will let into the Anacostia River Trail from the southern access gate, which is just below Bladensburg Waterfront Park. The next project I'd like to discuss is the Boyd Park resurfacing grant that we received from CDBG, DHCD, as in the Department of Housing and Community Development grant. This grant covers approximately $178,000 worth of resurfacing work to be done at Boyd Park on all 3 courts. We're looking to do upgrades to the tennis court with the addition of a pickleball lines on the courts, the resurfacing of the basketball court, and the addition of a soft surface court on the multi-purpose court, which has been an ongoing request from the community. So I can think of a couple of residents who are going to be very excited about that feature. We'll be providing updates on that item in particular at the next work session, so please be on the lookout for that in April. Thank you.
Okay, so the next slide. Some of the programs, community services. So we did incorporate it into this budget, the food compost program, and bringing it up to about 125 participants, and that is fully funded by the town, which is consistent with the pilot program and a decision that was made earlier this year. Sustainability and efficiency. I just want to go back. We've been able to maintain our Sustainable Maryland, and our last designation was Silver designation. So I just want to give a shout out to that. We retain the Tree City USA designation. This is our 29th year. I wanted this in there because I watched YouTube for my next trip, and I saw somebody was promoting. They've been a Tree City USA for 11 years, and I was like, where have they been? But so 29 years, we're doing well with that. And then at the last town meeting, I was surprised that people don't know this, but we have solar panels on top of Ely and on top of the covered parking. And so that comes up to 190,000 watts of solar power we have on top of the building there. I think that's going to significantly reduce our electric bill. We also do community engagement. I want to point out the Scouts. We've worked with several Eagle Scout projects, and with respect to the chess table, I am quite aware that we have a second chess table to locate, but I just need to get Ely finished first. Traffic walks, Lake Avenue, Forest Road, Crest Avenue were some of the most recent ones. These traffic walks leading to consensus on some speed humps. We also did one on 63rd Avenue not too long ago. We work hand in hand a lot of times with CNPP, particularly on the 5701 Landover Road Park that the town is developing. And the Garden Club loves to donate benches to us. And they have an outstanding request to get a bench located at Ely as well. We're just asking for some patience until we can get the building open and find a good place for that. Next slide, please. So we also do a lot of town event and community support, and staff went over it. And so we've supported over 100 events in the past year. This is just a sampling of them. We've included everything, but Just want people to know that we are out there, sometimes behind the scenes, but whether it's setting up, tearing down, or actually, staffing the event itself, everything from Arbor Day to blood drives to National Night Out to Juneteenth, Santa sleigh ride. So there's many things that we do. We also have a weekend park maintenance, and so in spring, summer, and fall, we go down and do patrols of town parks to pick up the trash and make sure the trash cans and the litter is picked up and the parks are presentable. Next slide, please. And so I believe in past years, I've said we were going to ramp up our staff training on regulatory compliance. Want to give a shout out to Ms. Cruz. She's been very instrumental in not only obtaining, but getting these staff through these online trainings. And so we've completed a host of safety training that is required, but this is something that has brought us closer or into compliance with these training things. The last one here, Battle Motors University Certificate. What's interesting is the last trash truck that we purchased, the chassis is actually from Battle Motors, and they have a university. So they encourage you to take the university, and we had our mechanic and assistant mechanic take these. What it does is it gives a head to toe Battle Motors, what do I want to say? Course on all the inner workings of the truck. And so I wanted to point this out because we've never had such a integral training that went along with buying a trash truck or other trucks. They show up, they show us how they work, but they don't have something that actually gets into depth like this. And so we continue to try to do workforce development benefits within, not only to help with operational efficiencies, but staff morale and adaptability. And then, we have maintained the budget line item. It's flat, but this will allow us to continue our commitment to training. So some of the focused areas that you'll see that are adds to the budget, at least the first one, are the Ely building, and that is maintenance agreements for the large equipment. So like solar and HVAC and some others. I think I have about 35,000 in maintenance agreements that we're looking to implement in order to have the maintenance done on these so that we can keep our warranties intact. Additionally, to some of these large equipments, we do not have the in-house expertise. As we fully utilize the Ely building, we're going to be developing standard operating procedures and also trying to learn efficiencies with the garage operations. Like, for instance, I can't promise it yet, but I have mentioned before, we do hope to help the police out and eventually significantly with maintenance on their vehicles. But I don't think that's something that we can cash in on immediately at this point. And of course, custodial and event staffing needs. This is a lot of additional square footage that we've added to the town's facilities. And so we've looked to address that as well. And then we do want to, over the first couple of years, determine a baseline building operating cost. With respect to utilities and other costs, we're going to try to quantify that over time. And I believe, is that the last slide?
Yes.
So if there's any questions at this point, if not, I'm ready to dive into the numbers.
Council, any questions? Steve, I think you can go ahead and
Okay.
through the big changes.
So if we could have the first tab. Or am I doing that, Giselle?
No, I'm sorry, I'm pulling it up right now. I got this.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, when it gets pulled up, you will see that the salary line item is going up approximately $12,000. And the reason for that is we froze an additional 2 positions. So I don't know if you all recall, but we've had 4 frozen laborers for some time, and we've been leaning on temp labor to help out with that. I actually approached this budget originally hoping to free up 2 of those, because I do think over time we do need to get back into having regular staff over temps. But it became clear that we needed to look at doing more this year to help balance the budget. And so, we froze an additional labor and an additional CDO equipment operator. And so we think we can get by, but I just do want to emphasize that, we've taken some proactive steps. That is almost a third. It's over 25% of our staff right now. And so, but you can see though that you wanted me to highlight, we're maintaining the overtime, but the overtime is critical here because we do with the events and with the staff. We do need the overtime. I did talk to my staff recently whether we are burning them out. They actually want to work the extra hours, and you may know that with the tax changes, the first $12,000 of overtime I think is tax free now. So they're eager to work for the town. But in this area with the benefits, I think all of that was tied to various formulas that Ms. Mock plugged in there. At the bottom, though, with the contractual temporary labor, we did bump that up from $170,000 to $200,000. And the reason is because, again, with the 4 frozen laborers and additionally the freezing of 5th labor and the CDO equipment operator, our CDO equipment operators do not always operate. We have several CDO drivers. We need that for backup, but at times we only have 1 truck, or at times we have 3 trucks. So, we actually tried to contain the amount of temporary labor. We were hoping to go a little higher, but we rounded it down. And so this gives us about 3.5 positions throughout the year. We have to manage that throughout the year. With like leaf season, we'll have more, but in between those seasons, we won't have as many. The travel and training has remained flat. Auto insurance is something calculated by Legit. You can see that we've tweaked down the materials and supplies. Miscellaneous is remaining flat. Subscriptions, it hasn't hit yet our memberships to the American Public Works Association. Our uniforms, if we can scroll down a little bit into the professional services, our uniforms are staying the same. The lot maintenance, I think, might be leaving my budget. It was in code enforcement, I believe now, but now we have all zeros. So at some point, I think that line item will leave. The security system, we are going to be incurring some additional costs, not only with the security system for Ely, but also for the cameras for Ely. So we think $10,000 can cover that. Kept the radio repair flat. The building facilities and yards, we're going to be getting back to where we have to conform with our SWIP program, which is the stormwater pollution plan, prevention plan. And so $5,000 for materials such as gutter buddies and other things that are required to contain any debris, sediment, or if we have drips of oil as well. As we go down further, you do see in the new building contingencies. Now, these line items have been used for other things throughout the Ely building or building the Ely. Building the Ely building. Sorry about using that word twice in one sentence. But we have the $35,000 in maintenance agreements that I spoke about before are there. And so we have a little bit over that for some unexpected costs that we anticipate incurring as a new building in its first year. And I think on this page, that's basically the new stuff. We've been able to keep everything else flat. I believe the grants we have taken out until we realize the revenue is, I think, the strategy. And so the Public Works budget has fluctuated between these numbers over the years based upon a lot of the Ely funding. But when I use the bottom line number here, and which we're going to go over, if we could go to the next page, I estimate that we're actually about 37% of the budget, the general fund budget at least. Street repair, we've maintained that to be flat. Snow and ice removal, flat. Trying not to overreact from the Snowcrete storm. Traffic control. So here we are remaining flat. The HUR is tied to what the state told us. And so that's recognized there. And so really I'm not sure what the tweak is. I did maintain $50,000 in general fund monies in asphalt and concrete. I'm a proponent of us always contributing to the asphalt and concrete, but additionally too, we do find sometimes that we might find something that we need to address that doesn't exactly fall into HUR. And so having some flexibility with some general fund money is helpful to us. The street light utilities is remaining flat. I believe we'll talk about the street light conversions later on in the CIP. If we scroll down further, many of these line items, are no longer active. But again, the stormwater materials and supplies, that is to help out with the yard and in other areas in the town as well. And that did tweak up a little bit with respect to from 5,000 to 10,000. We haven't spent it yet. And some of that tied to Ely because we have not taken control of the site at this point. And so we have not spent anything on that this year. Tree services, we tweaked that down from 220 to 200. Park supplies, we did tweak up slightly. And parks, tools, and equipment, we maintained flat. And POS, this is where what I'm proposing is that 125 represents an estimate to complete the track around the town field. And so with program open space money, it's a 75-25 share. So 25% would be general fund monies and 75% would be program open space money. And I believe, does that get us, no, we get down into some divisions. If we can continue down. So we've maintained our outside shop auto repair, but we did tweak down the auto parts. It'll be interesting to see these two line items can sort of interact, but we have reduced that down. But we again developing what our baseline cost is for the building and how we can support the entire town fleet. This may be something to watch over the years. Garage tools and equipment tweaked up slightly. That is because with the new garage, there are going to be some additional things that I think we need. That along with the garage consumables as well. So, for instance, just filling up our first reserve tanks of our lube distribution system. Tires and tubes are remaining flat. The vehicle database, we are adding another database, and so that tweaked up. And the gas, oil, and grease is remaining flat. Landfill disposal fees, we've tweaked those down slightly. The organic materials, that'd be our mulch. We're keeping that the same at 20. Everything, compost rain barrels, we've tweaked down. We have some in storage now. Everything else is remaining flat, but we did add, and this is new, what it says here for 130 homes, so I might have been mistaken, but $45,000 to fully fund the food scrap program. And so I think the 1.4 million at the bottom there and the 2.7 million on the other side is what I calculated to what I had said before to be approximately 37-40% of the budget. But I think that's Public Works. Maybe this is a good place to stop to see if there's any questions.
Council, do you have any questions at this time on the Public Works budget? So, I mean, Steve, I think it's mostly flat. Is that right? I mean,
Yes, sir.
it's always hard to tell because some of the numbers are distorted. Like the overall baseline number is obviously, distorted. So but would you agree that it's kind of flat from 26 and 25?
Yes, sir, I would. I mean, you're right with that fluctuations. We've had ARPA input, we've
Yeah.
had the Ely input, we've had the CARES Act input. All of these things have tweaked that. But yes, sir, I would say that it is flat.
Council, any further questions or comments?
Not for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I see. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would just say generally that's great. We're probably not realistically going to be able to budget, let's say, for $75,000 over the actual 25s for garage and equipment, right? So we're probably going to have to come in and hoover up some of that budget. But we don't have to do that tonight. Yeah, that would be my only comment. And again, I'm not picking on the garage. I mean, I know it's important. I'm just picking on it because it's on the page that I turned to. But, generally, like, that's, again, picking on the garage for no good reason. That's a 50% budget increase over the 25 actuals. I mean, that's not generally a place that we can be for any department on any, subset.
I think what I would point out with the actuals, we have not been using a garage for some time. And so while we have coded some expenses to that, we have an anomaly here with not being in a building, being able to do some maintenance on our vehicles, but now having to get back into a building. And so we've done our best to keep that cost low, but I'm not sure that the actuals, pardon again for multiple words, actually represent what we're likely to run into.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Council, any other comments at this time before we thank Mr. Brayman and move to general government, I think is next?
I was just going to ask Mr. Galloway if he wanted me to go over CIP.
No.
Okay.
Okay, I don't hear any questions. Thank you, Mr. Brayman.
Thank you.
Cardenas, it's always good to see you. Mr. Galloway, do you want to kick off the general government, or are we going to Ms. Ma?
Oh, yeah, I'll kick off with general government activities and divisions, and Ms. Mock is here and she can provide commentary as well. So good evening, Mayor and Council. I hope you all are ready for this budget presentation continuation. So as we get started with the contractual consulting services, and yeah, I had a presentation tonight, but for the best interest of time, I'm just going to go straight to the numbers. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Shake. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Okay. So this first section, it includes the auditors, the attorneys, computer support, the engineers, and HR consultant. And that is a total of a proposal of 373,000, which is less than what the adopted budget was last year. The non-departmental miscellaneous, I have the pleasure of having the oldest building to provide maintenance on. So the municipal building supplies and maintenance, I've increased it by 5,000, just considering that some of the maintenance that we've had to put in over the past few years and anticipating certain things. But that this also has all of the town's utilities and the red light and speed camera. And right now we're budgeting for an expenditure of $897,000. Any questions with that right now? Okay, as we walk on down to the animal and insect program, we always try to budget at least $4,000 in the event that the town needs to get stuff. There, you all call me every time around this time of the year because they're either real bad beehives somewhere or, we got to take care of something insect related. So we keep that there for this reason. So it's not the mosquito spraying, it's just so the town can have access to go in and get and taking care of whatever insect problem that we have. The TNR was something that the mayor and council wanted to move forward with a few years ago, and that was a total of $5,000. That's the trap, neuter, and release. That was for the stray cats that um, an organization got on and advocated for. So I kept that flat as well. As of now, for this year, we haven't spent any money for that. So just as an FYI. Mayor and Council, as we go down to the cable television government uh, and the channel and communications, one of the things that I wanted to do was just put communication all together for itself. Okay. And I wanted to kind of, spell this out for you a little bit more. Well, professional services, we have our AV services and ASL. And up until the end of February, we've spent $34,660. Well, we're projected to spend around 65,000 for the upcoming year, and this is the line that's always been there. The three new lines are digital communication. I moved newsletter and printed communication from the mayor and council section so that it's here under communication and streaming services. So let me break down each line for you. The digital communications entails anything Civic Plus. Civic Plus, the C-Click Fix, the Muni Code, Archive Social, the accessibility function, any and all. Those are our annual fees for the Civic Plus. As it relates to the newsletter is somewhere between, and we have this conversation every year. It can range between 38 to 48,000. 40,000 is what we've spent pretty consistently, a little over. So I'm going to budget for 40,000. And then for streaming services, this means the Swagit and the Zoom. Just so that you know what Swagit is the vendor that put our live meetings on our town website. It's the connector to it. So we have to pay a yearly fee for that, and we also have to pay a yearly fee for Zoom. And that's where we are. Are there any questions up until this point?
I have a question.
Okay.
So the actuals, so I think the mix of general government has probably changed because the actual for 25 was 1.9 and the budget is 1.4. So I love it when the budget falls, but why was there something taken out and moved somewhere else? Oh, the capital outlay. Maybe that's where the big difference is.
Yeah.
Yeah. 510, 135 was huge in FY25. And
Yep.
you're only budgeting 897. All right, I think I figured it out. Carry on.
All right, so we'll go into the mayor and council budget. How about that? So,
Yeah.
mayor and council,
Go ahead.
your salaries, your retirement, your social security, those are numbers that are based off of that top line. Your official expense, these are things that if you wanted to send cards or food or flowers to someone, this is where that money comes from that $3,000 line item. So this is your constituent service / strategic plan. You normally have a retreat at the end of the year, or sometimes this is kind of where we pull that money from for planning purposes.
And Mr. Galloway, you also somewhere have your own official expenses for things like funeral flowers, things like that? Or is that all here?
Yes, we have a miscellaneous that we could pull from as well out of the general government.
Okay. Yeah. All right. These might be two categories that we strike, but we don't have to do it tonight.
Okay. And travel and training, Mayor and Council, your travel and training. I think we've talked about what this entails. The Ocean City MML conference. Some go to the fall MML conference, but I think that this is predominantly for the MML and a few other things in between. Your public officials liability, that's determined by the insurance provider. Last year was at 17.1, so we just budgeted for 18,000. Material supplies and equipment, we have you down at 3,000. Sometimes you all like to come and print or get things, and this is where that comes from. As I've indicated, the newsletter was moved to the communication section. And we have budgeted for $7,000 for public information.
What is that?
That is when we have to put out notices for charter amendments.
Okay.
Those type of things.
Yeah. You're
Okay.
right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And last but not last, the subscriptions and memberships. This is the Public Official Association. That's your MML and PGCMA dues. And last but not least are the elections. Now we bumped this up 13,000, anticipating it being an election year, but also wanted to look at getting the voting machines for the upcoming election. And this would also pay for the judges, supervisors, and foods. This price, I think, also includes getting an additional box so that we can go ahead and get 2 more boxes for the areas located outside of town. So I know that there's been discussion about wanting to get a box and put it at Cheverly Station, and getting a box and putting it at in Ward 1 across 295. Well, I think we put the money in here to go ahead and move forward. We've tried to move towards that goal. Any questions there?
Mr. Galloway, what's the cost associated with putting a box in Ward 1 again? Just to break down that. Do you have that line item?
I don't have that actual cost in front of me right now.
Okay, if you can't get that to me, for the greater good, I know we're on a tight budget. That might be something that we can scratch. I'll talk with the residents about that, but if you can get that to me, I'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay. If there are no other questions, we can move to the general government administration. So Mayor and Council, just looking at the admin salaries and wages, these salaries and wages include a salary for the town administrator, the town clerk, the town communication director / HR assistant, and the office aide / youth coordinator, along with the code compliance specialist. We have frozen the assistant to the town administrator for the full year, and a part-time code compliance job for the full year. Just so that you all know, the town code is responsible. The code compliance officer is responsible for implementing the town code against any type of nuisances in town. The town clerk is responsible for all the files and the documents. and pretty much serve as the supervisor of the front office. That town clerk is also responsible for doing all the minutes and responding to any and all MPIA requests. The office aide and the youth coordinator is responsible for any and all things youth, customer service, and the town calendar and scheduling of the um, outdoor facilities. The HR/communication specialist is responsible for onboarding and offboarding, training, payroll, and all things communication. So that's where we are with that. We will go down the list. So I think that in personnel services, let me know if you have any questions because, of course, that line item went down 54,000. But one thing that we increased, of course, was the unemployment because it has increased as of February of 28. Some other things that I do and would like to bring your attention to would be the staff development, tuition assistance. For a long time there, we had been advocating for staff to take advantage of tuition assistance. And I think the years of advocacy has finally played off because staff has been taking advantage of this tuition assistance, so much to the point we have several people enrolled in college for the betterment of the town. So we're excited about that. We've increased this number to $45,000.
This is for the whole town, correct?
This is for the entire town. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
As we continue to go down, the insurance costs are what they are. We will prepare to offboard this because we no longer have a vehicle. We'll pass it right to the police. Thank you, Chief. I know you're on here. The commodities, we've stayed flat. Some of the other charges, we've increased because of the increased fees for organizations, but also, as you all know, we're in the process of putting out an RFP for payroll, and this is anticipating that a provider may be a bit more expensive, but it's not just for payroll here. This is also for payroll and the town accountant, Ms. Diane Mott. As we continue to move down this line, we have remained flat with everything else except for the price of postage. We do have to send a lot out for either the police or for code compliance, and those postage fees are here. And everything else has remained flat with code compliance. Are there any questions about this before turning to the next page?
Council, anything? I mean, I will just say this is basically exactly the same as the actuals for 25. I know it's a little bit, it's not exactly apples to apples, but it's very, very, very close to the actuals for 25.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Mr. Galloway.
Okay. As we go to
I have a question. I have a statement more than a question.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. I know the hard work to get to where we are now, like the mayor says, the actuals of last year. So I know how difficult that is, and especially in a difficult budget season. So commend you and your staff for that.
Hey, thank you. It's been a team effort and heart palpitations, but we'll get through that. So let's go ahead and get to the committee and debt services. Mayor and Council, I did increase the Cheverly Day line from 16 to 20. Few reasons why I did that. The cost of the fireworks will go up this year because of the request for the specialized fireworks that have been requested for, but also, the police department incurred the cost of the the golf carts. I wanted to be able to pull the golf carts from this line here, so that their community outreach can remain there and they don't have to pull that money there. So we're going to spend about 16 or a little over $16,000 for the fireworks, but I think the rest should go towards the golf carts. Any objections to that or any questions?
Makes sense to me. I think it's much more. Yeah. So this includes, just so everybody's clear, because this comes up a lot. So the 20,000 will pay for the golf carts and the fireworks. The town pays for both of those, and it comes out of the 20K. And then anything that's not spent out of that, the committee can get reimbursed by the town for expenses for Cheverly Day.
I'll be honest with you. I think that between the two, that's going to be $20,000.
That's fine. I want to set expectations.
Yeah, absolutely.
That there may not be any reimbursements coming this year because this is going to be pretty close to the. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for that, sir. And as we continue to go down, there will be some additional costs coming out of the youth. I want to definitely keep that flat with a lot of the work that they're doing. The grants have remained flat at 15.3. The community market uses their grant on an annual basis. So that total is 65,100. And then we go down to debt services. Well, this is pretty much based on the schedule that was provided to us at the beginning of the bond. Based on that schedule, we're going to be paying $536,000. $536,000 for the cost of the Ely Public Works building.
Thank you for that. Question up top. Why does Hometown Heroes need $4,000?
Oh, yeah.
When the banners are funded by the families?
You're right. I'm sorry. I went right over that. Thank you for bringing that up. One of the reasons why I wanted to put that there is we've also factored in for this on the revenue. We put $3,000 in the miscellaneous fund for this, and this would cancel out everything except for $1,000. That $1,000 would be the cost of the bucket truck that we have to rent one time to install the banners.
Oh, okay. So this is 4 bucket truck rentals.
No. This is just for one. We have to put this there because the town has to pay for this up front.
Okay.
The town, and because we have to pay for it up front, as far as the Hometown Hero banners, we have to have something here to show that it's being paid for.
Got it.
On the revenue side, we put in the money to account for that. So it's just showing.
So the families' payments, the families' payments are now a revenue line item as well.
Correct.
Okay. Great. Okay. So there's 15,300 in grants. Everyone else that's listed here doesn't qualify for those grants, right? Right. So like Community Market gets $5,000. They don't also get part of the 15, correct? Same thing with Cheverly Day.
They have.
Oh, okay. So that's not a disqualifier. Okay. My last question, and then I'll go to the vice mayor, is, and maybe Councilmember Wade can come in after, but is the rec council really only spending $600 a year or getting reimbursed $600 a year from the town? Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Well, do you want me to answer that question?
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
go ahead,
compounding.
Nancy, first.
Okay. All right. Well, As of last year, yes, that was the amount of money that they got reimbursed or didn't, or they haven't requested any funds as of yet. I do know that they've requested access to this, but there have been some things going on internally with the rec council that I think they need to take care of. I know we have tried to provide assistance and will continue to, but as far as to exhaust the 4,500, they have full they can exhaust it anytime that they need to.
Okay. All right, Vice Mayor.
Great, thank you. First of all, I just want to express my appreciation for how thoughtfully this budget was approached, I think, and all the hard work that has gone into it for both public works and general government. I know that in my home, my budget is looking pretty dire right now because the cost of everything has just increased so much. So the fact that we're able to keep things relatively level is really remarkable. So thank you for that. Two quick questions. One is maybe something we will talk about at the next work session or a future work session. But how are we accounting for costs of the town supporting council member events? Depending on how that kind of shakes out in terms of number of events and things like that, that could be a substantial number. And then my other question was whether for Cheverly Day, picking up on your point, Mayor, about reimbursement stuff, how they are doing in terms of the things we've discussed around fundraising and like donor outreach and stuff like that, and whether there are ways the council can support in those efforts.
Okay, so to answer your first question, one of the reasons, and I had this conversation briefly earlier today, I opted not to put anything in the mayor and council section just for the fact of we don't have a policy in place as of right now, as it relates to the events for special events for mayor and council. Okay. And what I indicated was we may have to approach that in a different way to where, yeah, as far as the policy, that would be a separate policy discussion. But I'm sure that there could be some ways that if a council member and volunteers needed to do something for their special event, they can let themselves in and them and their volunteers can pull out the tables and chairs and host the event. However, once one of these events becomes sponsored by the town or it's an official town event, we accept liability. So I have to make sure that people are here.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one that have to manage liability, right? So there I think this is a deeper policy discussion that we have to have. And that's the reason why I didn't put anything there.
The other thing I would say, sorry to cut you off, I would just add, I mean, there's probably $16,000 on that page that are, now I don't know if that's enough if we were to adopt a policy, but I mean, there's 3,000, there's 10,000, then there's another 3,000 that are kind of generic and could be used to reimburse the town for elected official sponsored events if we went down that road. Sorry, Mr. Galloway, did I cut you off?
No, you're fine. You're fine. And I'll say for your second point, Council Vice Mayor Briner, I'm not sure where we are right now as far as fundraising with the Cheverly Day Committee. We most definitely will touch base with them just to get a status check, and we can provide an update at a later date. But right now, I am unaware of what the fundraising efforts has been and what they have received.
I'm sure John can help us facilitate that maybe next month. Okay. If there are no further questions on public works or general government, Not seeing any. I think, go ahead.
I know you wanted to do a touch point on revenues again. So
Yeah, I was going to turn to Diane before,
Okay.
and not make you have to discuss. Ms. Mock, how are you? And can we stop sharing so that we can see? Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I was going to go over the revenue section because it's we've worked on that quite a bit. So if Giselle, if you could put up that particular area, that would be helpful.
And I have to thank Ms. Mock because this has been, of course, a busy tax season. So she has flexed a lot of time into helping us with coming up with strategies with this. And Mayor and Council, I do have to let you know we have had to get really creative with this. And before Ms. Mock goes into this, I do want to remind the council that 4 years ago, I think I laid out a plan for the mayor and council to balance a budget. And during that time, it was a 5 cent, 5 cent, 4 cent tax increase. Well, I think we did 1 year 4 cent, 1 year 5 cent. Last year, we didn't do any cent. Okay. And we probably should have to keep up with inflation, but we didn't. So this is where we are right now. And I'm going to kick it over to Ms. Mock, and then we'll make a recommendation. Over.
All right, thank you, Delane. So as Delane said, the first line item that's on the list is real estate taxes. So that consists of your apartments and your real estate. And excuse me, so that has, we've gone up to 6,375,000. And the way that particular number has grown is with a 5% a 5 cent increase in real property taxes. So we're suggesting going from 5,799 to 6,299. So 6.6299 per for the property taxes. The other piece in there is the apartment complex. And as you recall from our last discussion, the assessed value of the property, the apartment complexes, went down significantly. You're currently charging 75 cents per $100 of assessed value. The constant yield to get you back to where you were previously would be 98 cents per $100 of assessed value. So what we're suggesting there is that you move the apartment rate from 75 cents to $1.03. So where the $1.03 comes from is the constant yield rate of 98 cents plus a 5 cent increase, just like you're doing on real property. So with those two increases, what you're doing is adding $470,000 in revenue for the real property and $123,000 in revenue for the apartment complex over the rates that you were currently had in FY26. So that's 470,000 increase and 123,000. That's a $593,000 increase over leaving the rate at 0.57 57 cents per $100. So that's the first line item. The next two line items are the personal property taxes. This is for your businesses and your public utilities that are in town. And they are currently being charged at $1.10 per $100 of assessed value. we are suggesting that this rate be increased to $1.45. We did a little bit of analysis earlier today of other municipalities nearby you, and it's a wide range of numbers. Somewhere as high as $2.50 and somewhere below $1. You have not raised the personal property tax rate in, we think, many years. We really don't know how far back it goes. So with that particular 35-cent increase, that added $175,000 more to those two lines in total. So this would pick us up between the two. So we got 470, 123, and then another 175. This is giving us an approximately $768,000 increase for the first three lines in revenue. The remaining lines, local income tax, we have not fooled with that since you last looked at that. We're still holding that at 1.3 million. Hotel and motel tax at 110. Highway users, they do provide us that numbers at 363,000. So this would give you a total of taxes at $8,873,000. Under licenses and permits, no major changes there. Our total is 181,000. The budget last year was 184,000. The next section is intergovernmental. This is money that you're receiving from outside sources. The program Open Space is being budgeted for revenue at 93,000. As Steve mentioned earlier, he has in his budget 125,000 in expense because you would need to fund that project 25%. So this is what he would anticipate receiving from public program Open Space if he spent $125,000. The other numbers are holding pretty similar to prior years. There was the police protection grant was flat, and the disposal fee rebate has been constant for many years. We did not budget for any other grants until such time those grants are awarded to you. Then we can add them to the budget along with the appropriate expenditures. Under service charges, this is a small section. It's your parking, your lot maintenance, and pavilion fees. These have been adjusted to be closer to actuals for the last couple years. So we're at $2,800 in that section. Under fines and forfeitures, this is where your red light camera and speed camera revenue is being presented. This is indicating a slight increase to speed camera because it is tracking higher at this moment in time. In the FY26 budget, it is tracking a little bit higher, so we pushed this one up slightly. Interest and dividends, the market has gone flat a little bit more, plus you do not have the ARPA money any longer or other those excess funds to earn the interest, so we've made that 85,000. Under miscellaneous, now this area can fluctuate, it all depends on activity during the year, but basically you have, if you sell any assets, we have a little bit of miscellaneous income that comes in, like Delane mentioned about the flags, that is in that miscellaneous line item. Other police revenues come in, insurance reimbursements, that fluctuates tremendously from year to year, depending upon accidents, other items that might happen. The MATA overtime. That is a reimbursable. So the chief has in his budget the other side of that, the expenditure side. So that is a revenue neutral, meaning it does not provide anything really to the bottom line. You get money and you spend money. So the bottom line here is the revenue totals $11,459,000. Are there any questions or any areas that you'd like me to go into further detail?
Ms. Mock, you said 6299, 103 cents for the multifamily. Did you say $1.35 for utilities?
$1.45.
$1.45 for utilities. And did you say a business number?
Excuse me. We're treating them one and the same. Business public utilities would be at $1.45.
Got it. Okay. Councilmember LeGloaheck.
Thank you very much for the presentation. So I guess, can you sort of equate this to a sort of concrete number that I could sort of turn around to explain to somebody? So how does this number equate to somebody? You know, how can I say to them, how much is this going to cost them?
Okay, we have a another little screen. Giselle, do you have that available, or should I just say it verbally?
Yeah, if you could say it verbally. I don't. Oh, there it goes. Yes.
Okay, so the in your question is at 62 cents. If your tax bill was 20, we're basing this on a $500,000 home, and your tax rate was 57.99, 0.5799, your tax bill would be $2,900. And
your Cheverly tax bill.
Pardon me?
Your Cheverly tax bill.
Yes, excuse me. Yes, your Cheverly tax bill would be $2,900. If you raise that up to 62.99, then your tax bill would be, let me make sure this is presenting it a little bit different than 500. 1, 2, 3. Point, what do we say? 6299. Your tax bill would be $3,150. So it would be $150 increase.
250.
Thank you very much. I didn't use my calculator, which was a mistake. 3,150.
Thank you. So, and where you said that we have not increased our business and utility taxes, where is there a reason that we are not? So, and you said that we did an analysis of other municipalities in the region, and are we bringing our number closer to the other municipalities in the region?
Well, we found there was a broad variety. Delane, do you remember what Hyattsville was? That was.
I think
yes.
there are 62. Is that what we said, Delane?
As far as for the business?
No, I think we're talking about single family detached. I think Hyattsville is 62 cents.
Yeah, they are. But as far as the Hyattsville business, they're at 1.63.
Thank you. I thought, excuse me, I thought you were referring to the personal property tax rate.
Yeah, sorry, John did ask about that.
Okay. So we kind of looked at Hyattsville, we looked at Seat Pleasant, and just we did a quick analysis. We didn't do an in-depth study by any means, but just to make sure we weren't getting out of line, and we found that, you know, your R rate was not at $1.45 would not be out of line with the corresponding towns or cities nearby.
And then finally, at the end of the day, there is nothing to be done about this. That we have to do something, obviously, and that.
Well, yeah, I mean, John, I think that's part of the next conversation is like, okay, well, what if you don't? Well, if we do this, if we take this recommendation, how close does that get us to balance? And if we're not balanced, how out of balance do we feel comfortable being? I think that's a great conversation. I just think we might be 10 minutes away from that. David?
I will wait.
Sorry, John, were you saying something?
I will wait for my question.
Oh, I will wait.
Until
Sorry,
10
okay.
minutes later.
Yeah, I mean, my question is kind of similar. So I saw what was on the previous page in the corner, and it said current tax rate and constant yield rate. And I want to make sure I understood that because I thought I did, and now I'm not sure I did, because it has the current tax rate would give us more money than the constant yield rate. So the question is, what's the gap? Because those numbers are in comparison to each other, it seems. It doesn't seem to be in comparison to what we need. So that might be in 10 minutes, but I feel like this is a little, I mean, it's good to know that what 1 cent and 2 cents and 5 cents will do at a per unit amount, but I'm trying to understand what I'm trying to put it in context, and right now I no longer know that I can. So maybe that's in 10 minutes. I just wanted to know if I'm missing some number that's already there.
Yeah, let me try to untangle it a little bit, David. I think this is where this goes. But so if we don't change the tax rate and we leave the tax rate at 5,799, we will get more income in 27 from single family detached houses than we got in 26 because of rising assessments.
Exactly.
The same is not true for the multifamily. If we do not adjust the multifamily rate, we will actually collect less in 27 than we collect in 26.
So I guess what's curious to me is that we don't have a keep the current tax rate for single family, use constant yield rate for apartments.
So we could do that, and that would allow us overall to collect more in 27 than 26.
Yeah.
But I think the segue that creates is that would be great because we collect more in taxes. We just don't collect enough more to
so that's the number. I mean, that's the gap that I want to discuss. I just wanted to make sure we brought that up because my personal opinion is, and maybe this is poorly reasoned, is the reason their tax assessment went down so much is because of the change in rental policy, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make any less money in the coming year. So it means that the current tax rate isn't burdensome. It's not like that those are necessarily tied to their ability to draw renters, at least for now. Compounded, it might be a problem, but in 1 year, it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are have any concern. I don't want to speak for Diane, but I don't think any of us are concerned that at 103, the apartments somehow become, not competitive as a landlord.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I just wanted to make sure that there is such thing as a hybrid of those two lines.
Yeah. And it would land us in a number that was a couple 100,000 more than we collected in 26, but still a couple 100,000 away from balance.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And just to quantify it further for you, so that your real property tax rate, if you remain constant, would increase over 26 by 264,000. And your apartments would decrease by 103. So the net effect would be you'd have $161,000 positive number to increase over FY26. If remaining constant, if we kept it at the 57.99 and the 75 cents, you would have had about $161,000 increase over 2026.
Sure. And if we did my blend of the two, we'd have 5,884,569. So we could get about another 100 and what's that?
Are you raise the apartment?
I'm saying if we did constant yield rate, so raise the rate for the apartments, but keep it the same for single family, we can get about another $100,000 out of that, which might not be enough because we're about to go over that number. But I'm just quantifying that if we add the larger of those two numbers, the 5,451,835 for the non-apartments and the 4,32734 for the apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I'm saying. I'm just trying to say that we have a third option. I don't know if there's some weird legal reason we're not allowed to do that, but my guess is not, since we just declare the rates for each category.
Yeah, we're absolutely allowed to set the rate anywhere you want.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to end in a 9-9. That's just a historical weirdness.
Yeah, exactly.
It can be whatever you want it to be.
Hey, Mayor, I just want to say I concur with Councilmember Tanzi about more information about the rate staying the same for single apartments, an increase of the single houses, and then the single homes, and then for the apartments. If we can get that done, look at that.
Yeah, to see where we land. Yeah, sure. No, I think that Delane and Diane can run that number. Or they can further explain the number. The other two numbers I'll throw out, and then I'll go to the vice mayor, is that in John's example of the $500,000 assessment, which we have a few of in town, every penny costs that homeowner another $50 to Cheverly. By the way, every homeowner in Cheverly is paying about 222 cents every year in property taxes. To overall, right? So you're paying more than 2% of your house's entire value every single year to the county, the state, the town, WSSC, Transit Commission, blah, 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 et cetera. I think the last number I'll throw out is that every penny of our tax rate right now is, I believe, worth somewhere between $94,000 and $95,000. Delane might have the exact number, but let's round down and call it $94,500.
As you're right on the nose, 94,000.
Vice Mayor Briner.
Thank you. A couple of things. One is that I'm glad we're having this conversation because I know that historically there have been times where we've looked at all of these budget numbers and agreed that they're all good, and then decided not to raise taxes, even though that was what the budget indicated. And so I'm glad we're talking more explicitly about the tax rate now. Obviously, increasing the apartment tax rate and staying at our current tax rate for single family homes is not going to close the gap that we're talking about. I don't think, and obviously it's been a while, I don't think I've ever been part of serious discussions about raising those other tax rates that Ms. Mock mentioned. And so I'd love to talk more about that, why we don't regularly talk about doing that and what the pros and cons are of some of those.
One of the reasons why that came about was just having general discussion here amongst staff, and then asking Ms. Mock if this was possible. And after finding out that this was possible and that we could raise it, because I thought that this was a rate that was set by the state, not a rate that the municipality could set. So now that we know that this is an option, we wanted to make sure that we took advantage of this opportunity to increase revenue. Over the past 7 years, we've never increased this TPP utilities or TPP businesses. And as you all know, this is a tax on the utilities infrastructure, but also what's inside of the building. So each building or property owner has to release what makes their business work, if you will, all the hardware. So didn't realize that was an option. So we've had some intense discussions about that and kind of did the comparison, and that's kind of how we got to where we are now. And I will say that I don't think that this has been, it's probably been 15 years before this was even touched. Just going back and looking, just doing a quick glance, I don't think that there was ever a rate that was adjusted with. At least from what I can tell, I haven't been able to find anywhere where there's been a change in it.
So does this current, what we're looking at right now, does that include increasing those two rates? Or
Yes.
would we be talking, it does already. Okay, great, thank you.
Has that in there.
Yeah, Diane, can you tell me what a penny is for the apartment? For the
Sure. Let me look at the apartment's assessed value.
Just because, you know, I do want to set some realistic expectations. There's no way that we'll be able to.
Yeah. Go ahead.
To raise the multifamily unit number based off of what their valuations are, number one. But number two, it's just not realistic.
Well, I think your point, Delane, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean, that turnip only has so much blood in it. Yeah. And it's got less blood in it than it did a year ago because of the declining assessment.
It only means 1 penny is only $4,400.
Oof. Yeah. Now, I will also say if we were to get, let's say, have a piece of land that was annexed into the town and then so at some later point, multifamily built on it, this new rate would apply to that building once it was phased in.
It's an interesting point. I'm glad you said that, Micah, because that's something we have to consider. Yeah, that's something we have to consider.
And again, any wherever you set the single family detached, I think will apply to any townhouses that may or may not at some point be built in the town of Cheverly. Is that correct, Mr. Galloway?
Correct.
Are there any other questions at this time? Because I have a kind of a macro question, but does anybody else have a question on Ms. Mock's presentation or the combined recommendation? All right, my question then, first to Mr. Galloway is, okay, let's say we approve the tools, we give you the tools to actually collect $11.5 million in FY27. Can you get the spending on the spending side? This is not an easy question. I'm not trying to be flippant. Can you get the spending to balance? In other words, can you squeeze enough spending out of the budget to make it to 11.5 million?
I would have to review this with council, with Ms. Mock and the team, but yes, I would like to review that with them first before answering this question. Yeah,
no, that's fine. Yeah, that's why we're going to have another budget meeting. I think that leads to my next question, which is if you now I've forgotten what the question is. If you were to collect that much money, could you get the the fund balance? Let's not forget that. Sorry, that's what I was going to ask about. So, Mr. Galloway, I believe that you and Ms. Mock, I should ask both of you, are still predicting for FY26 a deficit of something like $350,000, which would land us somewhere in the $4.7 million range on June 30th.
I'll turn it over to Ms. Mock.
Well, okay, so for the budget deficit for FY26, we have two issues. One is that was a year that you budgeted for a deficit
Yes.
of 384,000. And then we have had two or one expenditure or two other major items that have hurt that budget. The first one was the lost revenue from the apartments. You have been hit in FY 26 with a loss of real estate taxes of 204,000. You lost the FY 26 revenue. They decreased that by 102. And you lost the FY 25 where they did not pay you. They refunded the apartment complex 102. So in FY 26, you're getting hit with a loss of real estate taxes of $204,000. So we have that particular number to overcome. The next number we have had difficulty with is the retirement. We budgeted for retirement funds, and they have come in at $266,000 more than what was budgeted for. This is for FY 26. So the combination of the lost revenue and the extra expenditure is $470,000. I am worried that we're going to make up all that with the remaining year. So initially we thought we had a budget deficit of 384. That's what it was budgeted for. But now we have these other two particular items that could, unless there's areas of less spending or more revenue that we're not anticipating, that 470,000 could affect the bottom line. Now, in the past, historically, we haven't quite, we've had more, let me start over again. Your bottom line has been positive over what we had anticipated. So the $384,000 deficit, yeah, that's what you budgeted for, but probably wouldn't have come in there. You know, we usually are coming with a little bit more revenue and a little less expense, but those two other numbers are very worrisome. So it's hard for me to tell you exactly what that fund balance is going to be at the end of 2026 at this moment in time. You do have the fund balance net of the 384,000 coming into 26 was 4.7. So if you were to not make up any of that $470,000 from lost revenue and more expense, then your fund balance would be at 4.3 million at the end of 26.
And Mayor and Council, please know everything that Ms. Mock just indicated, that was beyond the town's control as far as the Maryland State retirement figures. Every year before we go in and put in these numbers, we try to get the best numbers, even in collaboration or coordination with them. And you know, I can't help that Ross Management went and had their property reassessed, and they ended up getting a rebate of their tax. So that is, those two things are beyond our control.
And they were, as you just mentioned, the retirement numbers were totally different prior year, Delane. So it's quite unusual.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think, yeah, none of us blame you too. I think it's just, the problem for us as decision makers is we're 42 weeks into the fiscal year and we're not even sure which 100,000, like we can't even see the runway lights, and we're only a mile away from the airport. You know what I mean? Like that's very difficult for us.
Well, I mean, right now, the numbers that we have here, we have the actual through February here, and we do have some on this report that we're looking at. So we do have. It looks, as I mentioned previously, most of the revenues are trending well. So I really am not concerned with the revenues other than real estate taxes. And let's see, 76, 10, 815 divided by 7. And some of your expenditures are tracking below their amounts.
Thank you, Mr. Galloway, for keeping the expenditures for having the expenditures track below their targets.
Yeah. So I mean, I think at the end of April, we could give you a much better sense, because then we could project out the last 2 months. I mean, there are programs that you do spend in May and June that maybe you have to really look at.
So let me zoom out for a minute and ask, okay, putting aside FY26, FY27, we're now, well, I have two questions. One's more theoretical because I think it's about making the argument of why, like, how do we explain why we're a town of 6,000 people, but we're an $11.5 million corporation? That's a separate question I think we can address later. I think my question is, for as financial professionals, if we have an $11.5 million budget now, what would you view as the minimum fund balance, or the lower end of responsible fund balance? Surely it's not $1 million. It's not $2 million. It's got to be much higher than that. Well, where would you peg it?
You know, through the years, I've set a rule of thumb for most municipalities. It does vary quite significantly, because a lot of municipalities do a lot of assignments of their fund balance. But if you're just referring to the unassigned fund balance, the rule of thumb has been 4 to 6 months expenditures. And the thought process there is, well, why that? Well, in case of whatever, closing up the town, you're going to close the town. That would give you that opportunity to wind up your affairs in that period of time. And so your $4 million fund balance is in that, or that $4.7 million fund balance is well within that range.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I mean, that's helpful. That's helpful as a target. Council, it's another thing to think about. I'm not super comfortable with going below 4.7 million, but it's a little bit of an arbitrary figure, but it feels like it's kind of in the ballpark, almost a rounding error from where I think we would be getting into the irresponsible zone. I could maybe be convinced of something north of 4 million, but it's something to think about, because if we want 4 million, 4.5 million, then we need to balance this budget, because that's probably what we're going to have on day one of this budget is 4.5 million in fund balance. So if you're comfortable going lower than that, then this budget can be in deficit 100,000, 200, 300. If you don't feel comfortable, then the budget has to be balanced. And that means we have to find savings in spending, and we have to hit the corresponding revenue target. Councilmember Lohan.
I understand the rationale of keeping a fund balance if the town has to shut down, but I mean, historically, I would say that's not going to happen. So I mean, I think it would be okay for us to dip down in these, extraordinary times in order for us to preserve the level of services that our town has come to expect, and with the hope and understanding that, you know, these extraordinary circumstances will not last forever, so that we can look forward to FY28 when things will hopefully start to get better, that we can sort of right the ship and begin to look forward to better times ahead.
Thank you, Councilmember Tansey.
My opinion there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. We'll come back. Councilmember Tansey.
So I don't have a really strong opinion about what is the right number, but I think about it a little differently. I worry about deficit spending in any substantial amount because it means we're setting up a future deficit, and the current gap doesn't really seem to be from any clear single factor. So I don't see things just magically getting better next year. You know, property values might not be going up as much as they were, but we're not talking about, you know, a lot of people were affected by government cuts, but that's not really reflected in our revenue. Our revenue is based off your property value, and we're still getting that money. And so I don't want to base our budget off of some hopeful thinking that more money will be coming in. I think these are the numbers, and we have to find a way to make it work sustainably. And if there are short-term costs, things that we think only exist for a couple years because of the transition into the public works building or whatever, then that's the type of thing I'd say I don't mind deficit spending enabling that, because that's not an inflation of our general services. Anything that we think is a continuing service provided by the town needs to fit in the budget, either within our current tax structure or with what we consider to be a regular path of increase. And I mean, to be honest, I'm still a little bit shocked that there is an idea that we need to continually increase rates since valuations go up. And so we get money when valuations go up. And I understand valuations go up kind of with inflation and our costs go up kind of with inflation. But I would hope that those balance out more than have it create a reality where the assumption is we are just perpetually increasing the tax rate.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think, yeah, I mean, at some point, we have to reach a sustainable tax rate. And maybe it is in the mid 60s, maybe it's the low 60s, maybe it's the high 50s, maybe it's, I don't know what it is, but it can't go up 5 cents every year because that's not sustainable. And again, I'll remind folks that it's not our fault. It's only our fault for about 36% of their tax bill. 64% of your property tax bill is not our fault. It's the fault of the county and the other folks that get paid, that have to get paid. Never, period. The impact on folks is that everybody's paying more. I think I'm paying 222 cents this year on my assessment. I suspect all of you are too, because your rates are the same as mine. And so that's a lot of money. And that's a reality of living in Cheverly and in Prince George's. We can't control the growth in the other 34%, but we certainly have to find a sustainable rate for our portion of the bill. Our portion of the bill is the second largest portion of your bill. I think we're worth it. We're good. I think we're a good value, but nevertheless, the burden is real on folks, and the burden is not 62 cents. It's 222 cents, and we're a part of that, and that's the context in which we are asking people to pay. I think, yeah, so that would be my response to that. My response to Councilmember Loheck would be, yeah, I mean, the problem with this FY27 budget is there's nothing extraordinary in it, right? It's the same old bond payment that we're going to be making. It's 24-hour policing, which we've asked for. There's no one-off in here where I could go, well, that $1 million is not going to come back. That's one of the, which was a little bit extraordinary for me to get my mind around, that somehow we're an $11.5 million operation. I think the challenge for us as elected officials is to explain why or how what the town of Cheverly delivers to our 6,000 residents costs $11.5 million. And we just need, I need to get better at that. I think all of us probably need to clearly explain that. The Public Works Department and the Police Department each cost over $4 million. I didn't realize that until tonight. That's a staggering amount of money when we used to be a $3 million town. Maybe I'm getting old, but again, that's, we need to explain that to people, that the services that they depend on, that we're committed to delivering, cost this seemingly very large amount of money. Go ahead, please.
I think something you just said, and I'm not going to pick on the police department, but I'll use it as an example. Okay, and you have made a decision, you have made a business decision to do this, but as you just pointed out, and I think it's very important, in 24, their budget was 2.4 million. In 27, their budget is 4.2 million. It's a $2 million increase. So if you remember about our penny in property taxes, you needed to get $1 million more, or $2 million more just to get to the police department in the last 2 years. So you're absolutely correct in your assessment that those areas, they're flat. They did not budget much in increases, but the problem is the increases have occurred over the years, and the rates, your rates just aren't coming up fast enough to keep up with those particular jumps.
Thank you for that. That's very helpful. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I think it's important also to frame it not just as the services that you expect cost more, but that the services you expect combined with the values that we've all decided are important and part of the town are what costs more. Because we did do that study that showed that we weren't paying some staff a living wage. And in correcting for that, that increases the cost of those services without a noticeable increase in the service itself. But what it does is it allows us to live out our values as a town. That's a lot harder to articulate, I think. And I think one of the results of that is that when we're making smaller decisions, because we're right that there isn't one big pot where we can say, well, we decided to spend this $200,000, but you know what? That's not really necessary. We could just cut it. I mean, it means that we need to be making micro decisions with that in mind.
Can I jump in here as well?
Yeah, thank you for that. Mr. Galloway.
Yeah, one of the things that when we first did the budget back in 2020, Mayor, you were on that council along with Councilmember Fry and Councilmember Vice Mayor Briner. I did ask about balancing the budget back then, just because I knew that, the deficit that we adopted that year was just unbelievable. But and the back, I think, of everyone's mind was during that time, the police department would be our savings account. Okay. And for a while there, we could pretty much adopt deficit budgets and rely on the salaries line item and the police department and other things in the police department to kind of get us through. Well, also in 2024, I think we got down to 4 police officers at one point, and now we're fully staffed in the police department, which is, Mayor and Council, you all asked for 24/7 police and we gave you 24/7 police. I mean, we have the best of the best. So much to the point to where the county is trying to get our officers, other municipalities are trying to get our officers. It's not like we're hiring anybody from the JV team. We got all varsity players. And
Right.
even our bench warmers on the varsity players can go somewhere else and start. So, and the way that I kind of think about that is, you know, it's like that across the board from the administrative staff to the public works staff. People have been trying to poach my staff from other departments. So I just wanted to make sure that I paint the picture there. I think one of the things that you all wanted us to do was to provide to increase professional services. And I think we've done a good job of doing that across the board. However, it costs. It
Yeah.
does. It costs. And and carrying out that mission or that goal by the mayor and council, this is kind of where we got to where we are.
Yeah, thank you for that. So council, I think we have a lot to consider. I will certainly be writing the 5 cents into my newsletter post for May. I'll be turning that into to the town staff hopefully tomorrow or Saturday. Did you want to come in, Mr. Galloway?
I did want to come in just for the point of we do have to advertise for a constant yield hearing and a meeting, okay? A public meeting for a tax increase, and we do have to get stuff out, okay? And wanted to, make sure, Mayor, that you go over that if you can. We have to get our stuff in by Monday so that it can be in the next 2 weeks. I think on May the 7th is when we are scheduled to have the public hearing. And I think on that day as well, we were going to try to squeeze in another budget meeting. So just wanted to throw that out there, Mayor.
Thank you for that reminder. Vice Mayor Briner.
I think it would be great if anyone who is planning to not vote for a tax increase in this budget to present an alternative sort of approach to the budget. Because I feel like sometimes people just vote no on the tax increase so they can say they voted no, but don't have any other ideas for what to do differently. I don't mean to make that a formality. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of numbers to consider. Again, I think you need to consider what you believe the minimum fund balance is. And then again, if you're gonna spend all the way down to that this year, then what do we do next year? Okay. And then the other thing I can promise you is that Mr. Galloway is going to go back for the budget and look for savings. I will do the same. A lot of that saving is going to be $3,000 here, $5,000 here. It's not usually big numbers, but some of it is important. Certainly from the mayor and council section, I will look for savings there. But that's more about a statement of values. That's not really going to make a. Anyway, we'll see what kind of dent we can make in $11.5 million. It may not make a big one. It may make some dent to help us get there. I think, I think if we're going to raise taxes, we ought to get a balanced budget out of it. Like that ought to be part of the bargain. And so that may be a hard lift. I would also say Mr. Galloway didn't mention this part, but he's planning on, or he is budgeting for cost of living increases that frankly probably don't cover inflation, depending on who you ask, but they will at least get us a little bit closer to being competitive with other departments and a little closer to preserving the buying power of our staff's paychecks. All right, I'll come back in on the rate in a second. Let's go to Councilmember Tansey first.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I would like some very clear kind of if-then statements if we keep constant yield, how short are we? Sorry, if we keep the proposed budget and constant yield, how short are we? If we do constant rate, how short are we? If we go to, 1 cent, 2 cent, etc. I just think the choices should be clear, and I think some of this speaks to Vice Mayor Briner's point that I think we should be choosing from a list of options rather than a very complicated document that does not present itself in that way. So I don't know if we can construct those in rough terms right now, but I do think that before we have any kind of public hearing on this, those numbers need to be there, and I personally think they should be available to the public so people can understand this is if we keep the budget as proposed, which has already been looked over thoroughly by our team, we would be short this much if we changed nothing, and then start showing what our different options are and what the current fund balance is. I don't know that we have to provide all the context in the world, but we want people to know that there's not an unlimited pot to pull from in perpetuity. That most of what is proposed is continuing expenses. So anyway, I would love to have those numbers so that I'm not sitting here pulling out my calculator trying to make sure I'm doing the math right for every scenario.
I think we can answer some of those questions for you right now, right,
Okay.
Ms. Mom?
Yes, okay, so just to get the elephant out of the room, you're currently, this budget that has been presented tonight, I'm gonna remove the capital outlay out of that number, Delane, the $120,000 capital outlay number for sake of discussion. Is that okay for you?
For sake of discussion, yeah, if you can, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's be there, but yeah, okay.
Okay, it's 175,000 deficit with the increases we have proposed, right?
Okay.
Or $175,000 deficit with the increases.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're asking then is, okay, well, what if, as I think you just stated, what if we stay at just the normal rates, correct? Like just the regular rates. Okay, so it's really, are you interested in not raising the personal property tax rate? Let's start with that. Or are you just more concerned with the real estate tax?
Mostly the real estate tax. Well, all of it, but the real estate tax is what people tend to talk about because eventually they get their escrow analysis and it changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just focus on the real estate. So right now the real estate is at 3 million, and I like to round 3,375,000 with that increase that we discussed. And so if we were to leave it at the current rate, so that would leave apartments at 75 cents, and that would leave the real property tax at $57.99. Your revenue would be $5,781,000. So the difference between those numbers, 637,557, is $594,000. So now, again, the budget would remain, the expenditures remain the same. You would be at a deficit spending of $769,000. So that means that we would have to, we'd have to cut the expenditures to be at a flat budget by $769,000.
Okay.
To get to a flat budget. If remained at $57.99 and 75 cents.
Yeah.
That would quantify that for you.
Okay, so that's useful, right? So that's the number that everyone needs to know, and it's also useful because I think it would be reckless to try to pull that amount out of the emergency fund. Yeah, the unallocated fund, because there's no way you can sustain that. You can do that once, and you do it a couple more
Yeah.
times, and you're now really being irresponsible with your money. But that's useful because I think it makes it much harder to the vice mayor's point, to say with a straight face that that's an acceptable number. So then we have different options to find the money. Some of those are property tax rates. Some of those are all the other ones we listed. It's a long list. And I think this was also the vice mayor's point that we do have to have a pros and cons, because like Hyattsville is great to compare to, but Hyattsville can probably also argue to its businesses that it provides a competitive value that does not yet exist in Cheverly. So we want to make sure we are not making Cheverly unappealing to our commercial, tenants. But anyway, so that is the number I needed to know, because 175 with the proposed increases is a number, but that you could absorb maybe from our fund, but 769 is a whole nother number.
No, I mean the real meat of the sandwich here is single family detached property taxes.
Yeah.
Is anybody on the council have any real indigestion about a 103 for the apartments and $1.45 for the TPP? Or can we just write that down? Okay, so Mr. Galloway, write those down and let's plan to do those in the notice. I think Vice Mayor, sorry, Council Member Fry.
I apologize for the late hand. I don't love such a huge increase. However, understand it. I definitely wanted to hear from Councilmember Garces, though, since a majority of that area is his. I don't see him being completely opposed to it per se.
And I think that's fine. We can pencil it in. I think we can pencil it in for now. I think it would also make their payment roughly the same, right? Because their assessment dropped.
Well, yeah, it should. So, I mean, but just because he's not here, so I don't want to pen anything in without having heard from him. So penciling it in, I'm pretty sure he'll be on board when he hears the reasoning and everything behind it. But just want to make sure that his voice is heard before we're making anything 100%.
Yeah, I think right now we're penciling things in for purposes of the hearing notice. Which takes me to the thornier issue of what do we write on that notice for, I'll call it the 5799 rate, the single family detached houses. Are we okay writing 6299? Do you want to write something different? I mean, we need consensus. We need to give the town administrator direction on what to publish on the notice. None of that is legally binding. However, I believe what we publish, let me qualify by that by saying, if we publish a number, we can't go higher than the number, I think. Is that right, Mr. Galloway?
That's correct.
So if you publish 58, okay, then you could do 57.99 or 56 or 58. You can't do 58 and a half because you published the 58. So is there any council member who wants to proffer anything besides 62.99 for that notice?
Can I chime in here?
Sure.
I know we made the recommendation of the 5 cents, but if we impact this rate much more, then we really got to start thinking about what services do we want to eliminate. Do we really want 24/7 policing? Do we really want twice a week trash pickup? Should we begin layoffs? So I think that this is a real thing to consider.
And I would, the only other thing I would add is I don't want the council to feel like their hands are tied by this announcement, except in the narrow legal sense that you can't go higher than the announcement.
Well, I kind of feel like their hands are tied.
I mean, I think the town would be pleasantly surprised if you advertised a 6299 and you decided to go with 62.
Yeah.
I don't know why you picked 62, but if you have a mathematical justification, I could be convinced. You know, but you don't. You feel differently, Mr. Galloway?
No, I mean, I think that, you know, I think we made the best professional recommendation that we can for operational purposes with what we have compared to revenues and the demand of the community and the mayor and council. I think that the numbers are the numbers, unfortunately, and you know based off of this, we still got ground to make up because we're still at a negative $296,000 deficit, right? And on top of that, that included the capital outlay of the $120,000 for the 5 vehicles that the police department desperately needs. Oh, because we got a few vehicles in the shop right now that are getting fixed for $7,000 a pop. And at a certain point, we can't continue to invest in vehicles that's going to cost more than one vehicle. So I think that, you know, as I indicated at the very beginning of this, these are some hard decisions that we have to make. And, you know, I got to turn it over to the council.
If no one's going to recommend something different than 6299, then we're going to put 6299 in the notice.
I mean, you can recommend 63.99 and then argue it at the town at the public hearing.
Oh man, interesting tactic.
I was just going to say the exact same thing, to be honest with you, because as Mr. Galloway just mentioned right now, I said we were 175,000 in the hole with the budget as presented, but that did not include the 120,000 that they'd like for police cars. So if you add that, you're at 290,000. But remember, a penny extra is 94,000. So to get rid of the 175,000 deficit without touching any of the expenditures would cost you approximately 2 pennies. And that would not still be funding the cars. So even if you published, I would say if you published the 63.99 or the 64.99, this budget would be balanced at 64.99.
Council, what's your pleasure?
I mean, my personal opinion is the difference between 62.99 and 63.99 is, you know, 0.01. So I don't know that it matters which one we put in, and given the constraints, maybe it's worth putting that in. I think it would be different if it had some other clear symbolism, right? Like having crossed over some number, but going from 62 to 63, I don't think is going to feel so distinct. But we're going to have a lot of questions. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to provide the public so they can come in with more than just, you know, why does this cost so much? Do we have a history of the rate increases in the past?
I was just trying to figure out if I can do a chart on that.
You asking me how much we've raised at them?
Yeah.
Yeah, we raised them 4 cents in 24, 5 cents in 25, 0 in 26. That's what my handwritten notes say.
Okay. So
I think it's, well, anyway, we'll go to Vice Mayor Breider.
Yep.
My preference would be to do whatever Mr. Galloway and Ms. Mock recommend and what provides them the most flexibility, because they are the ones who are in the budget and working with the budget. And yeah, so I think if their recommendation is to go a cent or two higher, then I think that's what we should do.
I guess I would say there's no chance that we're going to actually adopt a 6 cent tax increase, right, guys? I mean, you're the ones voting, but you're not really going to vote for 6 cents, are you?
I don't see myself voting for 6 cents.
So, I mean,
Rather not.
we could, sorry, John.
I would rather not.
I mean, okay. Does anyone object to just advertising the 5 and tying our hands to the 5? So the 62.99.
Knowing that that's going to go into that we're going to pull from the fund balance.
Well, or we're going to cut spending. I mean, those are the two options that we would be left with. Because we will not have, you know, to your point, we would at best have $11,459,000 in income, in revenue. So we would have to find either spending cuts or borrow from, or take, I shouldn't say borrow, take from the fund balance. Vice Chair.
I did some back of the napkin math, which could be completely wrong. But it looks like our costs for personnel, salaries and benefits and temps, it's like 65% of our budget. So I just wanted to mention that.
It sounds about right for a small, for a government, or actually really any organization. It sounds about right. Okay, let's go with 62.99, and that'll be the advertisement. We'll have a hearing on the 7th, which is already which we've already scheduled, I believe. And then I believe that hearing, council, is not going to be sufficient for this conversation to conclude, because we need to introduce a coherent budget on May 14th. Mr. Galloway, what time is the hearing on the 7th?
6:30.
Okay, so let us have the hearing at 6:30, and then afterwards, I'll let you pick the interval. 45 minutes later, an hour later, let's have a final budget review, all departments and revenue. Does that sound okay, council? That will be my last use of air quotes for the evening.
So where in that scenario would we be actually voting on the tax rate?
That's a great question. Certainly we don't need to vote during a hearing, but perhaps we should vote on the tax rates, because we have in recent history, I'm thinking out loud now, had a separate vote, and that preceded the first reader of the budget. Am I right about that? I think I'm right about that.
I feel like last year we voted at the end of the hearing, but that was
So
like.
let us plan. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, let's plan to vote on the 7th. But I think, to the vice mayor's point, let's make clear on the meeting announcement, like what hour that's happening in, and in what kind. Whatever you write on the agenda, we will stick to as far as the procedure, so that it's clear. Because last year we didn't raise the rate, but I feel like in the previous years when we've raised the rate, there has been a vote, and it wasn't at the first reader. It was before the first reader.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have another meeting. So we are taking off April 30th. You all have the night off. We are meeting next Thursday, of course, for the work session, and then this will be on the 7th, and then the town meeting will be on the 14th. Yeah, this is perfect. Town of Cheverly. That looks great. And then we'll just pick when we say we're going to vote, whether it's during the 6:30 session or the 7:30 session. I have no great opinion. Council, is there anything further you would like to discuss tonight? Vice Mayor, is your hand up?
Yeah, I just want to make sure, because if we're voting and then having our last budget review, but town staff doesn't know how we're going to vote. So how do we know what budget we're going to review? I just want to make sure that we're not surprising staff in some way where they like prepare a budget for a certain rate and then we vote and it's not that rate, and now what do we do? So I don't know, Mr. Galloway, I don't know how that's worked in the past, or I just want to make sure that we're allowing for.
Do you have an opinion, Mr. Galloway?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to coordinate with the council collectively to try to create a budget that would be reflective of the tax, of the projected vote.
So yeah, I think that our tasking to Mr. Galloway and Ms. Mock is to identify expenditures that will land pretty much at 11,459,000. And then if we on the 7th, we all adopt a different tax rate, I think we might be then we would be deciding, okay, we're asking you to dig into the fund balance, or we're asking you to go back and in the next 7 days find additional cuts of X amount, or a blend of the two. Sorry, that was a little meandering, but did that make sense?
Correct. So
go ahead.
I think I did hear most of the council is okay with the personal property tax increase. Is that so? That could stay. That wouldn't be a flex number.
Correct. $1.45.
Okay. All right. Well then.
Yeah, and then I think we want to hear from Councilmember Garces. So perhaps, well, before the 7th, conversations will be had with Councilmember Garces, perhaps next Thursday, to pulse him on the 103 cents, and then that will close the circle on the 103 for the multifamily. Mr. Wade, go ahead.
Just make sure I'm clear to piggyback off Vice Mayor. Are we saying that we would make the final decision on tax increase the same evening as the most revised presentation that we'll have, or that's presented to us, or will we have a time frame after that to make a decision?
I think that what we are saying, which you don't have to agree with, but what we are saying is that between now and the 7th, staff will work to get the expenditures to 11,459,000, and then on the 7th we will adopt the tax rate. And if we adopt the tax rate at 62.99, then we have a balanced budget. And if we adopt a different tax rate that's lower than 62.99, then we will have to instruct staff to identify cuts or dig into the fund balance, or a mixture of the two. And so there would only be one more night of budget discussions before the first reader on the 14th.
Understood.
Does that sound okay to you, council member? Or you're worried about go ahead.
No, as you know, one of the biggest things is just community engagement, and be able to make sure residents have an opportunity to fully understand, not only understand, but view, to discuss and their concerns regarding the budget.
Yeah. So my intention,
especially for this year, since we're clearly, this is a special year for the budget. So
yeah, I agree with you. I would say this, obviously the hearing on the 7th will be specifically to discuss these published rates, $1.45, 103 cents, and 62.99. That will be a public hearing. There will be robust input. I think there will also be, we will treat the public input at the 7:30 here meeting like a work session. And then of course, there'll be public input on the first reader and the second reader like that. I think as a body, we don't want to have a lot of messiness still unresolved by the 13th, 14th. We want to have a first reader, and while we're still getting, that we're at least comfortable with, of course we can change our minds. That's the democratic process. Vice Mayor.
I just want to reframe when we're saying, well, if we don't want to raise the tax rate, then we ask staff to go back and find more places to cut. I think if we're not going to be using the tax rate that staff recommends, then council needs to be the ones that are identifying the places where they believe things should be cut. I mean, obviously in concert with staff, and staff makes recommendations as well, but I want to make sure that we're taking ownership of, if we believe that these numbers should be different, we need to be the ones to say, here's how they should be different, and not just sort of say, I want these numbers to be different, please just make it happen.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I think thank you for that. And let me just pick on John, for example. If John comes up and he says, well, I think the tax rate should be $60.99. I think $62.99 is too much. Okay, John, you need to find $188,000 worth of cuts in order to balance it, or you have to explain why you believe it's responsible to dig $188,000 out of the fund balance, or a mixture of the two. I mean, I support that. It's a little easier for me to say because I'm not voting, but I mean, I think if you're going to come to the table and say, hey, I'd like $60.90, I prefer $60.99. Okay, well then we're 188,000 short of what you want. Are you going to find that in the fund balance? Or are you going to find that in a cuts, half and half, 60-40? I think that's a useful frame as well, and I will try to do the same. I'll try to do the same.
Can I jump in here as well?
Yes.
And then two areas where you think, and trust me, I have went over each line item with Director of Public Works, with the Chief of Police, with Ms. Mock several times. And anytime you want to talk about cutting certain lines, let's have a conversation, because I can tell you what services are going to get cut or what liabilities are going to increase due to mandatory trainings or things of that nature. So let's, before you come here and say we need to cut this, and this, just because you think that it's low hanging fruit, I want you to know what the repercussions could be or will be if you do that.
Counselor, you agreed not to have this on the agenda next Thursday, correct? Just want to make sure. I don't want any surprises. We got a full agenda. I don't want to add budget to it, but.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Galloway, what is the best way you would like council to, again, I know budget, I worked in investment banking, but this is not my current job. So what is the best way to present to you possible cuts? So we just should send you an email and say, what about this particular service or project in the budget? If you cut that, what is the difference and how much money will be saved? What's the best way for you, for us to, as individuals, to send that to information, get the information to you?
I'll tell you what, if we can do them in groups of 2 or 3, we'd be willing. The chief, Director Brayman, we would love to have you come over, and we can go through any and all of your concerns and give you a full rundown of what the issues are, and to provide a full explanation. Yes, we can be as detailed as we need to be to provide you with the tools that you need to communicate to the community. So I don't think the chief or Director Raymond will have any objections to that. And, just please email me, let me know. We'll go ahead and get something scheduled. But yeah, I'm definitely open to doing that, Councilmember Wade.
And just to respond, thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. So you're saying that an in-person meeting with 1 to 3 individuals to on the council to meet
Yeah.
with. So a prior email saying these are my ideas, because the vice mayor mentioned if you don't have a solution, you don't want the rates to be what they are, then come up with your own solutions. So that's why I'm asking this question. So
Correct,
should I send
correct.
something to you in writing prior to that meeting?
Yeah, that would be good because it gives us a chance to provide you um, the feedback that you need and deserve. So, absolutely, if you can just provide us an update, we'll go ahead and schedule. It doesn't have to be in person; it can be a Zoom meeting as well. But just want to make sure that you have the information that you need.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's this. I mean, Councilmember Wade raised a really good point that I would make, and that is it's not helpful for Micah to show up on May 7th with a list of stuff that he thinks should be cut. I mean, that's tardy to the party. That's not effective because we'll be sitting here all night and I'll be trading David 5,000 for John's 10,000 for this. And it's ultimately not effective and it's not transparent and it's not, thoughtful. So, you really need, each of the 7 elected officials needs to have this buttoned up, I think, before the 7th, with Mr. Galloway and if necessary with Ms. Mock or the department heads. Okay, council, anything else that you would like? Councilmember Wade, is your hand back up?
No, it's not. Sorry about it.
Okay, that's fine. If there's no other questions for Ms. Mock or Mr. Galloway or the department heads, council, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Councilmember Tansey with the second. Is there any debate? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes 5-0. We will reconvene at 7:30 a week from tonight for the work session. Thank you, staff, for all of your hard work on this.
Good night.
Recording.